What's up, guys? This is going to be the full card breakdown for UFC 251, Usman versus Masvidal. It's coming up later today, 6 o'clock start time for the prelims. First fight of the night, we got Davy Grant and Martin Day. So, looking into this one, it is interesting. Martin Day is going to look to strike here for sure. He definitely has the advantage. I was watching an interview. He's really high on himself right now. Basically feels like Davy Grant's not going to be able to touch him. That's not necessarily a good attitude to go into a fight with. I mean, it's always good to be confident. But when you overlook fighters, we see what happens all the time. And, hopefully he's not overlooking Davy Grant. Because if he can stuff the takedowns, I mean, it looks like when he has his back to the cage, he has a wide base, likes to drop elbows when fighters try to take him down. He doesn't make it easy, but I do feel like Davy Grant might be able to get him to the mat. And that's what he's going to look to do. I don't think he's going to look to strike very long. He did say in an interview himself, though, that he was going to look to strike. Hopefully he's just saying that, right, to throw off Martin Day. We've seen a lot of that with fighter interviews this week, just talking a lot of nonsense. But I think Davy Grant, with his experience, because Martin Day really hasn't fought the highest level competition, I think Davy Grant has a better chance than people think. It probably should be a pick'em here, so there is a bit of value. And I think as far as dogs go on the card, Davy Grant is one to look at. By the end of the video, when I put up the bets, I'll have updated it. I'm still looking into it as of the time I'm making this video, but it is a potential bet, so you can check that at the end. But I'm going to go with, because of the value, Davy Grant by submission. Then we got Vanessa Melo and Carol Rosa. One of the fights on the card I'm not really that interested in. I'm going to go with Carol Rosa here because of the volume. She's a little bit faster, she throws more. Melo could make it a lot closer. That's why I'm not really interested in a bet. Rosa's line is, way too blown up, so not interested in that. And I'm going to go with Rosa by decision in this one. But again, Melo could surprise people. Then next up we got Zhalgas Zhumagulov, I believe it is, and Paiva. So Zhalgas Zhumagulov, from the tape that I saw, he's going to come forward, throw some heavy leg kicks, and then go up top with some punches. He has some notable wins. He has a win over Tyson Dam. A lot of people don't really have much respect for Tyson Dam, but I still think it's a notable win. Got a split over Ali Bogatov in his last fight. Bogatov, a lot of fights in the UFC. He's not in the UFC anymore, but Zhalgas does have some decent experience. Paiva, he's a young guy, had a really good performance in his last outing against De La Rosa. And, he's a good striker, used his distance well and got the TKO in the second round, so I was impressed. He looked significantly bigger at the weigh-ins, and he didn't make weight. So a lot of times fighters that don't make weight end up picking up the win, and, I think that's what's going to happen here. I don't write off Zhumagulov, but he is making his debut. That can take away from a performance a lot of times. And I'm going to go with Paiva here by decision. Then we got Marcin Tybura and Maxim Grushin. Grushin was in the PFL. I've watched him fight a few times. He's normally at 205. Marcin Tybura, not the biggest heavyweight, but he's going to have a decent size advantage here. Not in the height, but just in the weight, and that can be to his advantage because he's probably going to look to grapple here. If Maxim Grushin catches him with a shot, he could put him away. That would be his path to victory. I do think if Tybura can get a hold of him before he gets clipped, he can use his size and possibly even tire him out because, like I said, Grushin didn't look like he was in the best shape. I'm going to go with Tybura here by ground and pound in the third round. Then we got Leonardo Santos and Roman Bogatov. So this is interesting. Bogatov's probably going to look to wrestle here. I didn't see a whole lot as far as striking, so he's probably going to try to take Santos down, but Santos has pretty good jiu-jitsu, so I don't know how that's going to work out for him. I give the advantage on the feet to Santos, and I think it could be a pretty good fight, but if Santos wasn't at 40 years old, I'd be a lot more comfortable picking him, but he did look good against Stevie Ray, which doesn't say a whole lot, but he got the job done in the first round, and I think he's an underrated fighter, even though there's big gaps in between his fights. I'm going to go with him here. I think the line's pretty accurate, though. I'll say Leonardo Santos by submission. Next up, we got Makwan Amirkhani and Dan Henry. So Amirkhani, he's a skilled fighter, but the issue with him is he gasses out. If he had good cardio, he'd be a real threat. He looks good on the feet, has good submissions, good wrestling, but I don't trust him. And Dan Henry, if he can weather the storm early, he does look to be in good shape. Amirkhani didn't really look himself. And I think that this is a good spot for Henry being a dog, because Makwan early in the fight, he's going to be a problem. But like I said, second and third round, probably midway through the second, I mean, he does have enough to make it at least 7 or 8 minutes into the fight. But after that, I think there's room for Henry to take over. I'm going to say Henry by TKO late. I mean, he has decent stand-up. He uses his range pretty well, but he can be clipped, and that's the thing that worries me. Because if he gets clipped, I could see Amirkhani snatching up a submission real quick. So this is going to be a good fight. It's a good matchup. Because of the odds, I'm going to go with Dan Henry, and I'm going to say Henry by decision. Then we got Zaleski dos Santos and Muslim Salikhov. This could be a really good fight. Both of these guys, I think, are going to look to strike. Dos Santos should probably, look to grapple, but I think he's going to be content to stay on the feet. The only issue is Salikhov has some heavy hands, a lot of power, and Dos Santos, if he gets caught, he can be put away. Li Jingliang finished him, and I was surprised by that. I had Zaleski winning that fight. So Salikhov could do the same thing, even late into the fight. So I don't trust Zaleski for a bet. I would say the line's pretty accurate here as well. I'm going to go with Salikhov by TKO. But as the fight gets later on and the power comes off of his shots, it's possible that Zaleski could pick up a decision. But I'm going to go with Salikhov by TKO, like I said. Next up, we got Volkanovski and Jiri Prochazka. This is going to be a firefight. Both of these guys have power in their hands, and they're both going to look to finish. And Jiri's not one of those guys coming in on a debut that's green or hasn't fought under the spotlights before. He's definitely fought some high-level competition. He's got a lot of experience, a really impressive record. But Volkan, he's fought all the top-level competition in his weight class and got some really impressive wins. There was a couple performances that threw me off. His loss to Anthony Smith. I thought he beat Dominic Reyes, though. Most recently, he beat Latifi, put him away, and Alexander Asik. He should be able to get it done here if he fights smart. I think he might even look to grapple early to take some of that power off of Jiri's punches, so hold him against the cage. I don't necessarily think he'll go for the takedown, but just make it a grind-heavy fight early. Or if you never know, he might just go for the kill. He has early knockouts over the highest level, early on when he first came into the UFC. He came in with some impressive wins. Jimmy Manawa, Misha Sturkinov, guys like that. So I'm going to go with him here. I'll say by TKO, but this could be a really good fight. Pretty accurate line as well. Then we got Paige Van Zant and Amanda Ribas. So apparently Paige Van Zant's on her way out. I'm not sure what the deal is there. UFC always has the right to match. I don't know if she's done with fighting or what's the deal, but if they wanted her, I'm sure that they would pay the money. Amanda Ribas coming in with a good opportunity here just because Paige Van Zant is a pretty big name. But I'd say Ribas is the better fighter. Paige has put on some size, some muscle, it looks like, so might see something new from her in there. Might look to grapple a little bit more. Not mix it up as much with Ribas, but on the mat, I could see Ribas getting the finish or on the feet. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm more comfortable here going with the finish from Ribas. We'll say second round TKO. Then we got Jessica Andrade and Rosa Namajunas. The first fight is pretty telling in why I'm going to go with the pick that I'm going to go with. In the first fight, I actually went with Andrade and I put a bet on her. And I was, after the first round, thinking it wasn't going to go my way just because Rose, clearly picked it up, was using her distance and her striking. I thought Andrade would be able to get in on her a lot better, and she wasn't able to do that. So I was, worried about that. And when she got the slam, to be honest, I was thankful that she got it because, again, it wasn't looking good for her. In this fight, I'm going to have to go with Rose, but again, there's an issue with her being off for so long, and Andrade might have adjusted. She might look to rush forward and catch her with something, get that slam again while she's rocked, or anything can happen, of course, in a fight. But I do like Rose. I'm not going to make the same mistake I made in the first fight. I don't write off Andrade. She's definitely one of the higher level women in the division, but I'm going to take Rose here to get it done by late TKO. I don't know how Andrade's cardio is going to be in this one. I think Rose has got a really good camp in. I think with the layoff, she's taking this really serious after she lost her belt. She's going to have a fire under her. So I think Andrade will have to put her out to get it done. And outside of that, I don't really see her doing it. So I'm going to go with Rose here again by decision. If you're looking at a parlay option, might be something to look at. I did better myself way back when the line dropped. Next up, we got Petr Yan and Jose Aldo. So this is a fight I'm really looking forward to because Petr Yan's a guy that I'm really high on. I did think that he would become champion at some point, but against Jose Aldo, the way he looked at 135, I did pick him to beat Marlon Moraes. I thought he won that fight. I did bet that, and it did sting to see him get robbed, in my opinion, in that fight. I mean, not necessarily a robbery, but I thought he clearly won 2 of the 3 rounds for sure. And Petr Yan, though, another guy that I think is really dangerous. The only thing that kind of stands out with him is even in the Uriah Faber fight, he did get tagged a few times. We've seen him get clipped. It's going to be a tough fight. I do think that if the fight gets late, so 4th and 5th round, it's definitely going to favor Yan. That performance against Max Holloway, where Max just made him look really bad once he lost his cardio, that always stands out. But I feel like he's going to be, of course, working on that and really hopefully he has his cardio in check for this fight, because I'm sure he's aware that Petr Yan's going to come with a high volume. He's quick, really skilled fighter, and I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see him get it done here. But when Aldo's up close to 3-1, I'll always take that bet. I'm going to say Aldo by TKO. It is hard to see Yan getting finished, I'll be honest, just because he is so good, but Aldo is impressive, and I think that Yan might even be overlooking him a little bit. So Volkanovski and Holloway. Holloway is definitely going to be hungry in this fight. I just feel like that first fight again is going to be pretty telling. I feel like Holloway does have the ability to adjust. He's really good, and he'll probably have made a lot of changes. I just feel like Volkanovski will probably get it done again. It was pretty convincing. I don't know why Holloway thought he got that first decision. It was pretty clear that Volkanovski at least won 3 or 4 of those rounds. And even with Holloway being the champ, I am one of the people who thinks that the champ has to be beat. But I thought even by decision that Volkanovski got it done, and I would have considered it a robbery if he didn't pick it up. So I think he's going to be hungry here. I don't think he's underestimating Max in the rematch. And I'm going to go with him to get it done. Another decision. I would say this one's pretty safe to go the over, but Volkanovski did say he was going to try to finish Max, but I think Max he's a tough guy. I think he'll survive. I'll go with Volkanovski by a decision. Then we got the main event, probably the best thing that could have happened for the UFC. Jorge Masvidal stepping in 6 days notice, a guy that's been around forever. I remember back watching the Kimbo fights. He's deserving of this for sure. I know he's getting a good payday, and Kamaru Usman is going to be a tough fight, no doubt. I think that Kamaru isn't really in the proper mindset, to be honest. So I saw an interview where he was saying he wasn't happy with the scenario. He didn't like how there was a built-in excuse. He was talking about eating too much and a lot of things that are a bit of a red flag for me. I do feel like his wrestling could be a problem for Masvidal. He has had issues in the past with wrestlers, but at the same time, he's definitely going to be working on that. He was training for this fight previous to Burns getting it, and then they had that issue with the UFC. So he has been training for the wrestling, and I think that he's definitely going to go for it. But Usman's cardio and the way he can take a shot in the Covington fight. Now, Covington doesn't have the power that Masvidal has, but Usman just kept coming forward, didn't look like he was getting tired. It was really impressive. I was surprised how he looked in the 4th and 5th round. He almost looked like he did in the first. So it's going to be a tough fight for Masvidal. I want Masvidal to win, but I have to go with Usman. I do think the line is a bit off, though. I think that there should be a bit more respect for Masvidal. I think that people are thinking that he's coming in, 6 days with no training. But again, a lot of people forget that he was training previous to this, thinking that he was going to fight for the title. So it's going to be good. Both of them came in shape. Masvidal made weight, and I'm surprised that he looked as good as he did because he had a lot of weight to cut early in the week. But I can't wait for this fight. I can't wait for the whole card. It's going to be a really good one. I'll pull up the bets now. There was still a couple that I was looking at the time of making this video. So I know Aldo will be on there, possibly Davey Grant, Rosa Namajunas, Volkanovski, Ozdemir potentially as well. That's about it, I think. But yeah, you can check out the bets here. I was even considering Paiva, after the way he looked, a lot bigger at the weigh-ins, but I could see Zaga's catching him, so a little bit iffy on that one. I think Tybura at even money is not a bad bet, but Grushin does have the potential to catch him. Tybura has had an iffy chin at times, and Grushin has more power than people give him credit for. Jose Aldo, Volkanovski. It depends on if you want to pair them up. I mean, Volkanovski and Rose, but Rose was at a price where a straight bet was good enough. Even Volkanovski early, it's just these lines got beat up, right? So recommending it now versus when I put in bets, it's just a little bit different. As far as value goes, there isn't as much, but that's what I went with. And not the best card for value. There's a couple dog spots, but we got 35 fights this week, so it'll be a money week regardless. So I'll be back Wednesday. Look out for that. I'll put out that TEV video. That one's going to be a good one. And, of course, next weekend's card. So crazy week.